What's going on, everybody? This is ODC, that's me, and I'm back with another action figure review. This is my review of the Marvel Legends Infinite Series X-Men Wave Toys R Us exclusive Magneto figure. I think I got everything in there. Sorry I kind of took a break from in between my reviews of this wave. A lot of things happening in my personal life. Girlfriend moving in, stuff like that. So I apologize for the break, but you know, life happens and you got to deal with it. So anyway, but talking about this figure, you know, I feel like it's a it's a long-awaited character. Updated character figure. I mean, obviously this figure, in my opinion, is much better than the Toy Biz version. The Toy Biz version, I don't know, just kind of gave off that kind of like gorilla ape type body. I don't know. It was big and bulky, and it was based off the Iron Man from Wave 1 or Series 1 of Toy Biz. And I don't know. I never really... I mean, I liked the figure because it was the only Magneto figure that we got, but I think that this figure is much better, but that's not really saying too much because there's a lot of problems with this figure as well. Number one, the face sculpt is probably the number one deal breaker, I would say, for this. Also the wrist articulation, but I'll get to that as well. And I would say the hip articulation too. And there's problems with the cape that I have. Now, most people might not see this as a big problem, but for me, it's a pet peeve of mine. When you put a cape on an action figure or a character that normally always has a cape on, there's no reason for this cape to ever come off. So I just don't understand why Hasbro doesn't just glue the capes to the figure, because they shift around, they move around, and I'd rather them just sit just like it's supposed to, like this, as opposed to wobbling around, or I don't know. I'm not feeling that. It's just it's a personal thing for me, for my figures when they are caped characters, that they just sit. I feel that was one thing that the DC Universe Classics got, is that the capes always were pegged in and glued in, and you didn't have to move them. They didn't have to move around. Now, I understand that some people like articulation in the cape. That's fine. Me, I prefer my capes to be glued. And if all they had to do was glue this across the top here, or glue it to his chest so it doesn't shift around, like it just looks stupid like this. Like a cape would never do this. Sorry. I understand you guys, with you ACBAers out there, want to be able to move the cape around, but even if you have it like this, it still looks stupid. It's completely flush, and it's tilted the wrong way. This portion should be flowing. This portion should be stationary and not moving. That's just the way I see it. I don't know. Disagree with me, I don't really care. The other issue I would say is the wrist articulation. He has a swivel in the wrist but no hinge, and especially for Magneto, I am a Magneto fan. He's one of my favorite villains, and to not be able to hinge his wrist this way or down is absurd to me. I just don't understand why Hasbro decided to go with this body buck. This is basically the Steve Rogers body buck that they're using, or the Shield Agent, or whatever the hell you want to call it, Punisher, or whatever. I would have preferred them. I mean, I understand that they wanted to make Magneto a little bit taller, but I would have preferred they just go with a different, like the Bullseye body buck or something else like that. So at least he has the articulation in himself. I don't know. And the face sculpt. Let's start with the face sculpt. First things first, I did a customization. This is going to be a longer review, sorry if you haven't noticed. But as you can see, the head wobbling around in there. And I'm just going to point the face sculpt out for now. And then I'm going to do what I did, which was a head swap right away. And I'm sure most of you have seen it by this point. Seeing enough reviews of this wave. I actually took the head off, and it pops off fairly easily. It's not really glued in that tight, so you can pop the head off and just chuck this thing right in the fucking garbage because it's. And then I took, I had a spare magneto, so I popped that head off. And if you are going to do this head swap, I would suggest that you Dremel a hole, because that's what I had to do. There you go. So I Dremeled the hole a little bit bigger because this peg is a little bit bigger on here, which most people haven't pointed out yet. Now it's up to you which head or which helmet you'd like to use. I chose this one because it's got a little bit more paint applications than this one. This one sits a little bit more flush on this head, which I'll show you in a second. But I really kind of prefer the new one. Now, if you want this to sit properly on this head, because he has hair and he's got extra sculpting going on, you kind of have to Dremel these pegs that were sticking out to peg into this head. You just have to Dremel those out. And it didn't take me long. It took me maybe 5 minutes to do, if that. Or you can just go with the traditional helmet, but I would say the paint applications are a little bit better on this, a little bit more bold on this than this. But his head does pop right on now, so I don't have a problem there. I'm going to just take him off this light stand. So there we are. His head sits nicely, don't have a problem. And you can put this helmet on if you want this one. Or you can pop this one on after you give it a nice Dremel. And I think this fits pretty well with him as well. I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like this helmet on? The new one? Or do you like this one? Like I said, this one sits a little bit more flush, but this one has the better paint applications, I think. So there you go. But for the sake of review, I'll just leave the nice head on and just get that other head out of my face. As far as his cape, it does just peg into the back, so you can remove it. I'm not going to repeat myself. It's not what I would choose. There's no paint shading on here really at all. There's no black shading or anything like that. It's just kind of a plain purple color. It would have been nice if they could have made this a nice metallic purple, just to differentiate between the cape and kind of the, I guess you want to call this the collar piece here for the cape. But the rest of the figure is pretty much just painted on. His gauntlet, wrist guards, whatever you want to call them, his gauntlets here are sculpted, but they're a separate piece that goes over the wrist. And this belt piece is also a separate sculpted piece that you can move. Also, the boots are separately sculpted, and I believe I don't think I've ever seen these feet before. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen those feet. This is just painted up here. Not the best paint job either. He's got some red bleeding through the purple in the back and in the front. The collar pieces. I don't really see any other red bleeding through on the purple that I can see of. Nope. A little bit right there. Not too bad though. But I mean, we all know this body mold by now. As far as the articulation goes, his arms do go up about that far and they go down. They can do a full 360. He's got a bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow. He's got a wrist swivel, no wrist hinge like I said. He's got a ratcheting ab crunch, which works pretty well. It's nice. Waist swivel. He's got wide jointed hips, which I absolutely I can't stand. So they do move out and they do move forward and back and all that stuff, but you have to swivel the peg and it's annoying. Anyway, upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees. He's got a boot swivel, an ankle hinge which goes forward and back, and he also has an ankle pivot, the newer ankle pivot. So, I mean, I don't know. Overall, this figure, I wish it was much better than it is. Paint application wise, you know, the cape is it's just a huge pet peeve of mine. If he's got a cape, just make sure it's secured and an end, because this gapping issue is just stupid. I'm just not feeling it. It just looks weird and frumpy. I don't know. But the good thing about it is that you can put the old head on And whichever, you know, personal preference of yourself, I prefer this newer helmet, even though it's wobbling around a little bit. But if you pose them right, it won't look as weird. So the old head sculpt looks way better, and I suggest you do that. I wish they kind of would have just given us this old head sculpt, because it just looks so much better. It really, really does. Now that Darth Vader's calling me. Anyway, overall, I'd say this is probably a letdown, but it's nice to have a new Magneto figure. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to recommend you get this figure, but if you don't have a Magneto figure, then I would recommend getting this one over the other one. A couple other points I wanted to point out before I let you guys go. He does have some black paint shading going on his, going throughout his thighs here, and on the other thigh as well. Inside his biceps there, but not on the outside. It's very particular, the spots that they put the black shading. I don't know, a little weird. A little bit on the inside of his calf here on both sides as well. Maybe it's not coming up on camera, but it is there. So I don't know, that's pretty much it. I don't know, like I said, if you don't have Magneto, I would recommend you get this figure. Out of the two, he's the better, I think. But if you already have a Magneto, or you like the Toy Biz one better, I would say pass on this. This is probably a passable figure. Like I said, I don't know, to me, I was hoping for something a little bit better. I'm glad I could do the head swap, and it looks a lot better. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you guys on the flip side.